Welcome to Franchise Sports Media's 70213 Lakers podcast. I'm Joe Arrigo, co-founder of Franchise Sports Media, and we want to give you, Lakers fans in Las Vegas and Lakers fans worldwide, a new home for the NBA's most storied franchise. We know the Lakers' storied history, 16 titles. We know the iconic names synonymous with the purple and gold: Magic, Kareem, Wilt, Worthy, Dr. Buss, Mikan, Baylor, Goodrich, Scott, Pat Riley, smooth, silky Jamal Wilkes, Phil Jackson, Shaq, Kobe, and of course, Chicky Baby, Chick Hearn. As we recall the iconic moments from the Showtime era to the Lake Show, we are now embarking on a new era, one led by the King and AD. After 7 long, miserable, painstaking years, the Lakers are back in the thick of things, trying to win their 17th Larry O'Brien trophy. Franchise Sports Media will be here with you on their journey until the game's in the refrigerator, the doors close, the lights out, the eggs are cooling, the butter's getting hard, and the jello's jiggling. The 70213 Lakers podcast will consist of FSM's Lakers reporters Isaiah Torres, who's not here tonight, Mike Dancy, and Kyle Randolph, who are now joining me. What's going on, guys?
Not much, same old. Doing great.
What's going on, Joe?
All right, man. You know what? I'm pumped about this podcast because unlike you guys are NBA fans. You guys love the NBA. You like a lot of different teams. I'm a Lakers fan. I grew up in Southern California. I've seen 10 Lakers championships in my time. Covered a few of them as well. But I'm a Lakers fan. You guys bring a different perspective, an unbiased, just different perspective than most people. And I respect that. So let's get right into the first subject because it's something for me that I often, in the last few weeks, question. And it's J.R. Smith replacing Avery Bradley. Now, Mike, you wrote an article shortly after J.R. Smith was signed to the Lakers about how you would have signed Jamal Crawford instead of J.R. Smith, even though the Lakers had a really loaded backcourt with Rajon, Rondo, with Caruso, and then obviously Bradley. With Bradley being gone, they bring in J.R. Smith, kind of an off guard. Jamal would have still been that ball dominant point guard. What made Jamal to you a better fit than J.R. Smith?
Well, Joe, honestly, I think Jamal Crawford would have been the best fit at the beginning of the season, but they didn't sign him then. They had the opportunity to sign him now. I think they should have signed him now, but they signed JR. I think Jamal Crawford brings he brings more of a veteran, a more solid, a more strict. I can't think of the word. He's more disciplined. I should say that because with JR, you don't know what you're going to get out of JR, and JR is also inconsistent. One night you can get 20 from JR, the next night you'll get 0 or you'll get 5 on a 1-for-7 shooting. I think the Lakers need something consistent if they want to compete, especially in this loaded Western Conference. And I think that with Jamal Crawford, you will be getting a consistent player who will be able to produce consistently. And that's why I think they should have got Jamal Crawford over J.R. Smith.
I think Jamal would bring more professionalism.
That's the word I was looking for. That is the word I was looking for.
Jamal is a consummate professional. In fact, I've been lucky enough when I was covering the Clippers to get to know Jamal real well. And I don't know if there's a better person than Jamal Crawford. And I would agree that Jamal would have been a better fit on the court. But see, Kyle, how do you feel about this? With LeBron playing with J.R. Smith in the past and knowing even Dion Waiters for that matter too, they know how LeBron works, how he's wired. Now, Jamal's never been a guy that people have a hard time getting along with or fitting in. But JR and JR and Dion Waiters both have a relationship with LeBron and playing with them. Do you think that played a role in them choosing J.R. Smith over a Jamal Crawford?
It had to have, right? I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to because they are, if you look at them statistically, Bradley and JR are very similar players. Their shooting percentages, 3-point percentage, they're really similar. But what people, I think they're missing out is JR is nowhere near a good defender as Bradley. So statistically, it looks like it makes sense. But to answer your question, based on how good they are as a defender, the relationship had to impact the decision. There's just no way it didn't.
See, I think numbers lie. Numbers don't always tell the truth about everything. No, they play a role into things, but I think that they tell people rely on them a little bit too much. And JR is a streaky shooter. It's not like JR is a knockdown guy. I mean, you get hot JR in the playoffs. Like, yeah, he's a difference maker. But then you get cold JR in the playoffs, or JR that's off thinking in la la land, not knowing, the score or this situation or scenario. That's a whole nother ball game. With Jamal Crawford, he's one of the most intelligent basketball players I've ever spoke to in terms of not only knowing games and situations, scenarios, but Jamal also, when it comes to the history of the game and where to be at certain times. So that's where I don't know. For me personally, I have more of a trust with Jamal Crawford than I do J.R. Smith. I have more of a trust with Jamal Crawford than I do Dion Waiters. I mean, look at Dion Waiters. Look at Dion Waiters at the beginning of the year. He ate too many edibles and he passed out on the Heat plane and was suspended again. I mean, like that, he would have been the number 2 scoring option on that team, Mike. And yeah, the guy just totally screwed it off in a lot of people's opinion.
Exactly.
And you would think, like, if all this rich life and all the freedom they have, even with everything that NBA players have with all their money, bothered him, locking him in a hotel for 3 months, things might go down.
Exactly. Like, when you have to be locked down in the same area for 2-3 months, you want somebody who's focused. You want somebody whose mind is right. You want a professional. That's why I think if he acts right and does what he's supposed to do, then it should work. It should work fairly better, but I just don't see that happening. And that's why they signed Jamal Crawford. They wouldn't have to worry about this at all. And the production would be consistent. He will be there.
Well, I'm going to take the opposite approach. I think them being locked down for 3 months is a good thing because that gives them complete focus for 3 months. That gives them they have no other option other than to focus on basketball and get a whole bunch of Vaseline or whatever other lotion or whatever. There's going to be a lot of laundry getting done at the Disney property. I know that much, the way these guys are going. So I think that at the end of the day, you have players, let's say Jamal and Dion Waiters, and there's other guys too that I think the lockdown and being in the bubble is going to help them. In fact, I can make the argument that JaVale McGee, since coming to the Lakers and playing with LeBron and everybody else, it's benefited him more than what most people would have thought because he's no longer on Shaqtin' a Fool. And I think that really hurt him being on that. But more importantly, he's able to focus on basketball and has guys that believe in him. So I think being in the bubble is actually a good thing because it allows these guys that are used to having a bunch of freedom, are used to being able to go move how they want to move or whatnot. I think it's going to be able to give them an opportunity to really focus on their game. And let's be real, both Dion Waiters and J.R. Smith need to have really good bubble times or bubble periods because they're free agents at the end of this season and they still want to stay in the league.
You have a point. You got a point.
Their approaches make sense. One thing with JR that worries me too, though, is he didn't play many games last year. He didn't get any younger, and rust can be a thing. Rust is going to be a thing for all these players.
Yeah, and also it's not like they have the whole season to mesh in him and Dion Waiters because Dion Waiters just got there before quarantine shut the whole season down. So it's not like the two they're gonna mesh that. They're going to play really well off the rip. We don't know what's going to happen.
We don't. That's what I'm wondering. Like, Are we going to get the typical inconsistent JR who's hot or cold, or are we going to get the older, always cold JR now? We don't know. He didn't play many games.
Well, that's true. I mean, he missed a lot of time last year, and he, obviously got bought out by the Cavs. But look, let's be real. Getting bought out by the Cavs is not a bad thing. When you can get the hell away from Daniel Gilbert, who is the worst owner in the NBA, he's a joke. You guys know he blocked me on Twitter, right? You know the story behind that?
No, I need to hear this.
Okay, so when I was on the Beast 980, it was even before then. I was working independently, covering the Lakers and covering the NBA, really in the Lakers and the Clippers. It was right after the Chris Paul trade, and obviously basketball reasons didn't allow the Lakers to land Chris Paul. But the real story is, if they would have waited a day or two and let the ink dry on the new CBA, the Lakers would have had Chris Paul. Dan Gilbert, and in particular, threw a bitch fit and just totally. I mean, everybody knows about the letter he wrote. So I ripped him on Twitter. I mean, I was adding him, and it was a few years later. I'm on the Beast 980. We were doing a story, and somehow he got brought up, and I went in. John Gennaro, who's in charge of SB Nation's podcast now, was our director of social media over there. And John goes, "Hey, Joe, did you see what Dan Gilbert tweeted out?" I'm like, "Nah." And I look, and I was blocked. And I had been blocked for years, or at least a couple of years. Come to find out, like, he was reading the tweets because I called him out on him saying that it's bad for the NBA, that the Lakers are so good and they outsmarted us, and the Cavaliers and small market teams will no longer be able to have a great have any type of success or long-term success. And I said, and so I tweeted at the Cavs and I added him, even though he probably didn't see it. And my question was, you've spent more money than any NBA owner since the CBA started, and you at the time had no titles, and you lost LeBron James.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you crying? You got 3 first-round picks, number 1 overall picks, and yet you still haven't done anything. What the hell is your problem? Oh, I went in on him. So Dan Gilbert, I'm blocked from him. And so anyway, if you can get bought out from Cleveland, that's a good thing. Please don't make that mistake. And so JR missing that time last year.
Totally understandable.
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, LeBron's not here. I'm stuck with Tristan Thompson and his messy ass with all the drama he has with the Kardashians and their best friend and all. Like, Kevin Love don't want to be here. I'd be hella depressed too, since I'm stuck in Cleveland and LeBron. Like, I need to go. Kyrie's gone. Like, ain't no reason for me to be here. So there ain't. If I'm JR, I would not be upset about that at all.
Yeah, and we'll see. We'll just have to see what happens. Time will tell.
So, do you think this bubble thing is going to work? I mean, Isaiah Torres, who will be on the show hosting it again next week, Isaiah wrote a really cool article that got released on franchisesportsmedia.com on Monday, and it's the TBT bubble and how it worked well for the TBT and how he thinks it's going to work well in the NBA. Now, it came out on Tuesday that the NBA had announced that there's no coronavirus cases. No one in there is affected right now. Chris Haynes from Yahoo, a really good friend of mine who we'll have on a franchise show in the very near future. Chris wrote a great article about what the bubble is like and what he's experienced since he's been down in Orlando. But how do you guys think, or what do you think about the bubble, Kyle, when it comes to if it's going to be successful or not for the players down in Orlando?
I actually think it's going to be successful. I was watching some of the players' vlogs, and they're taking it seriously. They got those Disney wristbands, like they have to scan it whenever they test for corona. So it's like I believe they see their location on there. They got a lot of things to do, so not that many players are complaining, even though there's always some. But it seems very secure. Seems like they know what they're doing. It's going to work.
What about you, Mike?
Well, I think it's going to work. I think it should work. If they do it right, it should work. Only thing I had a problem with at first is that the day that they approved, I remember this is on my birthday. the day that they announced that they were going to go forward with the restart in Florida, there was reported like I want to say 30,000 cases of coronavirus have been confirmed in Florida, like in Orlando, in that area. So I was like, it's a bad look, but at the same time, as long as everybody stays inside, nobody goes out the bubble, then there shouldn't be any problems. So as long as everybody stays inside and everybody takes care of their business, I don't see why this doesn't work.
I'm going to tell you why it doesn't work. It doesn't work because when you're an NBA player, you have a routine. Your routine consists of waking up at a specific time, going to the facility or the arena, getting your workout in, going home, taking a nap, getting back to the arena or the facility, and getting ready for your game. And after that, going having a late dinner and going and doing whatever the hell you do because your schedule is different. Now, mind you, athletes, especially NBA and Major League Baseball players, because they play damn near every night, their bedtime is 3-4 in the morning for the most part. The ones that are single, it's a little bit later. And they get up in the afternoon because that is how their clock works. This is different from a regular person, an average Joe and Jane. I have a feeling, and my biggest concern about the bubble, and I'll get to the concern in a minute, but I have a feeling that there's going to be somebody, they're going to find a way to sneak somebody in or a female in, and or a few of those thotty-thot-thots to come in, and they're going to think it's another hot girl summer. And what's going to end up happening is that someone's going to catch something. And then it goes to my concern. Let's say, and I'm not saying like, let's say, for instance, because he's not married, Anthony Davis, round 2 of the playoffs, game 3, test positive for coronavirus. And let's say LeBron tests positive because he got it from AD. Look, now you played at least 90. You played against at least 96 different players because that's, at least it's 8 teams, 12 players per team. And then you have the coaching staff and the personnel at the hotel and whoever else is that you have or they allow to have down there. Then they shut everything down. That is my biggest concern because, hey, in the words of Billy Corbin, it's Florida. Honestly, Florida does some real funny stuff. The shit down there is real funny. So my biggest takeaway is if somebody reaches out and tries to bring a little IG model in, I know Kyle, like you and I talked about that off air. Well, why don't you go ahead and bring that up?
Yeah, so there's no clear proof to this at all, but some Instagram model posted saying she is invited to the bubble super early on. I believe is day 1, not entirely sure. She said she is already invited to the bubble and that this whole thing was screwed up and not taking shots or anything. But the only NBA player that followed that model was Montrezl Harrell.
Of the Clippers.
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. I mean, she didn't want to from what she posted, but I don't think they could sneak somebody in if they tried. From the vlogs I've been watching, it seems super secure.
Wait. You saying she didn't want to? Kyle, you're crazy. She's dying to get down. Not only would she'd be the only one. That girl would be paid. She would be bouncing from room. She would be the jump off of all jump offs. Honestly,
I mean, she didn't do it. Right? she didn't do it
because it got public. If somebody would have kept their mouth shut, hey, it may have got blown up because of the snitch line they got up in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be real. Like
what I saw, she posted it herself as if she didn't want to. She's like, I already got invited. Ew.
Yeah, there's more.
Not saying that's how it went.
There's more than that in the story. I'll tell you that much.
That's her perspective.
Yeah, there's 3 sides to a story: hers, his, and the truth that lies in between.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that there needs to be some concerns. I'm glad that the bubble is working right now. That's a good sign for the NBA. And I think I've been on record on my Twitter account and very public. I don't think that we're going to see other sports played this year or they're going to be shut down. But I think if any two sports can work as far as team sports, it's the NBA and the NHL with the way they're doing things. And I say team sports because I think golf can happen all day because you're solo dolo. You know, it's you one other person. But speaking of the Clippers and the Lakers are arguably the top two teams in the NBA. Now, I can make the case that Milwaukee and the Lakers are the two top teams in the NBA. But right before COVID-19 hit and there was the shutdown, that weekend, the Lakers beat the brakes off of the Bucks at Staples Center. I remember watching that game, and I was literally there's no words that I could express. I was like, damn, like they really put hands. And Giannis had I think he sprained his knee, dinged his knee up a little bit. And then on Sunday, a day and a half later, the Lakers play the Clippers, and they really dominate the Clippers as well. The score maybe isn't indicative of how much, but the Lakers went into complete playoff mode. Do you think the Clippers are the Lakers' biggest hurdle on their way to winning the championship?
Personally, yeah. I do. Yes.
Why?
So, even though LeBron and AD do have better statistics combined than Kawhi and Paul George, their defense is scary. I'm not going against the Lakers because if I had to bet life on the line, I'd say Lakers. But PG, Pat Bev, Kawhi, that's really hard to score against, let alone they got Lou Will and Montrez off the bench as well to put up points. It's just a lot of talent. I mean, I believe they will win, but it's the biggest hurdle because there's just too much talent. As a whole team, the Clippers are more talented than Milwaukee, in my opinion.
What?
Like, as a whole team. I mean, Giannis is the best player, arguably, in the league. MVP, for sure. But
what?
Kawhi, Paul George, Pat Bev's defense, not saying he's super talented on offense, Lou Will, Montrez, the same people I named, they got insane talent. They didn't play much together, so their statistics are a little low, like their record, their total team points per game, all those stats, but the majority of those games were played without PG and Kawhi. When they play together, they're nearly unstoppable. I do think the Lakers can find a way, but
the Lakers played against Paul George and Kawhi the last time they played, and they beat the shit out of them. LeBron is the MVP, and it's not even close right now.
No. That's Giannis. Giannis is MVP.
What the hell are you talking about?
He's the favorite by far. Have you seen the odds?
Oh, my gosh.
Mike, do you hear this nonsense he's talking?
He puts up I'm not only a statistic person, but he led his team to a better record. He has less around him. He puts up better stats in less minutes, mind you. There's no reason he shouldn't win MVP this year. Is he better than LeBron total? I'd say no. Playoff Bron's going to activate as well, but MVP's Giannis's 2 times.
Man, the way I see it, stats and how your team is doing is like half of it. The other half is the story behind it. Like, you see Westbrook when he won his MVP, the Thunder weren't really that good of a team, but he still got it because his stats for one, and also because of the story, he broke Oscar Robinson's record, and he was busting his ass the entire season, and that's why he got it. If you look at the story for LeBron, this is year 17. He's 35 years old. He's still balling. He's still that man. And the Lakers are the best team in the West right now, heading into the playoffs. That storyline and the fact that the team is doing well, that's why LeBron is going to be the MVP at the end of this season.
I don't think that storyline compares to how good Giannis did. Continue with what you were saying, Joe.
LeBron is leading the NBA in assists for the first time. LeBron and AD, either one of them can lock down Giannis. Giannis still's got to prove he can hit a jumper consistently. He's gotten better, And believe me, I said this during our franchise meeting today. If I had to start a team in the NBA, I'm either taking Giannis or AD. And that's over Luka Doncic. I have no problem saying that. But AD,
I don't know.
Look at, he's year two. And he's yet to stay healthy. How many games has he missed this year alone? Look at, the bottom line is this. LeBron, what he's doing at his age in the league and how it's done now. And mind you, he's not taking any days off. Kawhi, Paul George, Doc Rivers. LeBron is going at it. LeBron is game in and game out. He had a little bump and bruise, little sore muscle. He took some time off. Okay, that's a game or so, but he's right back at it. AD, for the most part, has been healthy all year. LeBron makes the biggest difference on the Lakers when he's off the court versus when he's on the court. I'm just saying, the way LeBron is playing, with the things that he's doing, LeBron's going to win the MVP. I think he has the advantage over Giannis. Not saying LeBron's better than Giannis right now, because Giannis very well could be, and I think he is the best player in the NBA, and he's only getting better. And I'll say this. Giannis is not leaving Milwaukee. He's going to get the max deal. He doesn't want to leave Milwaukee.
He seems like the loyal type. I know Dame is loyal as well. He's staying.
Dame needs to go. Dame needs to leave and go somewhere. He needs to come to LA.
He really wants to stay. He said he wouldn't mind spending his whole career in Portland and not winning.
Hey, like we thought KD was so loyal. I remember on 2K, what was that, 2K15? Loyalty rating was 99 after he gave that whole heartfelt speech, and he was out the door after they lost. I'm just saying, you don't know what these guys are thinking.
To be fair, obviously people can change their minds like Kyrie, but KD didn't say he wouldn't mind spending his whole career losing if it meant staying with one team. Again, you're right. We never know. I mean, Kemba wanted to stay with the Hornets, and they literally wouldn't let him. They lowballed him even harder. So, maybe that happens to Dame. We're getting off topic.
Well, no, but that's fine because the bottom line is with Kemba and with the Hornets, it's a business, and they're not in a position to spend $40 or $50 million or 35, 40 on one player, and they're not in a position to win right now.
Yeah, they need a tank.
Well, no, they don't. They have a name. The biggest name still in all of professional basketball. He owns the damn team. He's got his logo on their jerseys. Period. That's the only name they need. But the reality is, Dame will not spend his entire career with the Blazers. He's going to go somewhere because he wants to win. He knows he's made his money. He's got a lot of money stacked. He knows he can go somewhere and win, and somebody's going to get in his ear, and he's going to go somewhere because that team is not built for long-term sustainable success. This is the way they are right now. Him or McCollum has to move. Period.
It's not even that great built for short-term success, to be honest.
Okay, I would agree with that. They're a team that it's Dame, McCollum, and a bunch of other guys. That's essentially what it is.
A bunch of solid players, but yeah, that's it.
They're solid. I'm not saying they're trash, but when you bring up the Clippers being the best, look at the Clippers. They're still little brother, and they still have little man syndrome in LA. Honestly, they're still in Big Brother shadow. If that's the case, take down the Taylor Swift banner that you put up. Quit putting up pictures over Kobe, Shaq, Magic, Worthy, Chick, Mikan, Wilt, Goodrich, Baylor. Stop. Worthy. Don't cover up the banners. That everybody knows what you're doing. It's stupid. The Clippers have little man. That's why they're trying to get let's go get Reggie Jackson off the bench. Reggie Jackson ain't gonna make a difference.
You don't think so? I think he will.
Man, look, there's too many shooters, too many ball-dominant guards that need the ball in their hands. Lou Will needs to have the ball in his hands. Patrick Beverly is the most overrated player in the NBA right now. He should have been on your list. Mike. Patrick Beverly ain't that guy. Half the league and his own teammates don't like the dude.
Doesn't matter if they don't like him. He's a solid defender. In the end, that's what
he? Is he? Is that what the numbers say?
He's great.
Well,
he ain't going against Lonzo Ball anymore.
He can get in. I think even if he isn't that great a defender, it's the way he approaches the game. It's his mentality and what he puts out there. He plays the game with a dog mentality. He talks, he gets in your head, and he can kind of make you do things. And it's just that makes his defense, it amplifies his game to make it look so much better.
He makes weak players do things. The superstars don't. Look at Avery Bradley got in Patrick Beverley's head in that last game. Avery Bradley played Patrick Beverley's game and messed him up that last game, Lakers versus Clippers. Go back and watch it.
Gotta remember, though, they played 3 games, and the Clippers won 2 out of the 3, and Patrick Beverley was great in the 2. His man didn't really score many points. I know he's the one that got the block on LeBron on the Christmas game. I know that's only one play, but he's doing things. He's doing things, man.
You know who else? You know. There's a kid named Kobe something or another that went to high school that dunked on LeBron in the summer league. No one gives a shit. That's one play. Look at in a 7-game series. It's not the regular season. And that's the reason why you heard Kobe speak when he was talking about why the Rockets will never win a title with D'Antoni's system, because in a 7-game series, things are different.
You can't do the same thing. I totally agree with that. You can't. That's another thing. We have to get into that another day, but you can't do the same thing and expect that is going to work, especially in a 7-game series when you're playing the same team back to back to back. The same thing isn't going to work. It's not. That's the Rockets haven't figured that out yet, and they're going to keep failing until they do something.
And here's the other thing. What I think, Kyle, I think you're missing in this. Like, I know Kawhi is Kawhi. I trust Kawhi in the playoffs. But Kawhi is not. I mean, he may be 100% healthy now. But taking that time off, you're missing out on chemistry. And, I get it. Okay?
I agree.
Now,
I agree.
Paul George, I trust Paul George enough. But here's the thing. I've seen LeBron and I've seen Anthony Davis take over series themselves. AD beat the Trailblazers practically by himself a couple years ago in the playoffs. Like, he was unstoppable. Playoff LeBron, took a team from 3-1 down in the NBA Finals to 73-9, and they lied team. Got Cuffs the Legends. Cuffs Twitter account is the best, by the way. That's one of my favorites. But his 73-9, and they lied for him. And it's true. LeBron took that team, put him on his back. Yeah, Kyrie hit that game-winning shot, but LeBron did things in that series that's unhuman, that only certain players in NBA history have ever done. The Clippers don't have that guy. Kawhi's great, but he's not LeBron.
And honestly, I agree with that. I spent this time saying why the Clippers were a threat to you, but didn't really say. I told you I'd say the Lakers would win, and that's why. Chemistry is a huge issue to that. Clippers haven't played many games together. Then now they're locked in a hotel doing all this. Or Paul George and Kawhi haven't played many games, not Clippers, obviously. So they don't have chemistry. AD and LeBron are arguably better than, I'd say they're better than Kawhi and Paul George, even if Kawhi and Paul George had chemistry. I just think they're both better basketball players. So in the end, I do say the Lakers win, but I feel it's closer than you think. From how you say it, you think it's going to be like a blowout. I don't know. These Clippers are scary. Lakers have it, but they're scary. LeBron has a losing playoff record against Kawhi.
I think, like you said, Kyle, to all the other points that you made, I agree with that. I think it's closer than people think. But at the end of the day, this is LeBron James we're talking about. When it comes to the playoffs, I swear, even during the regular season, I'm seeing him. I see him take shots in the regular season. He might miss some shots, or he might go about the games somewhat differently. But when it's the playoffs and it's on the line, he's making stuff that he doesn't make on the regular basis. He's doing things that he doesn't do on the regular basis. He's a different animal. And I agree with you. I think the Clippers are a problem, but I think the Lakers they can beat them in the 7-game series. But
you know what? Go ahead, Mike.
If we're talking about I'll say this though, for the first game, because the season starts back up on the 30th and 31st, something like that, and the Clippers and the Lakers play that game, I think the Clippers will win that game. I will say that though.
Before COVID hit and the work stoppage and the shutdown happened, the Lakers were the hottest team in the NBA. Period. We're gonna take a 2-minute break, and when we come back, I'm gonna tell you why. And it's based off an article that Mike wrote. I'm gonna tell you why the Lakers will beat the Clippers and what they have that the Clippers don't have, and why it's the best in the NBA. This is the 70213 Lakers podcast on Franchise Sports Media.
Las Vegas, Al's Garage is the perfect location for watching your favorite sporting event, including our UNLV Rebels, Las Vegas Golden Knights, and the brand new Las Vegas Raiders. But you can find your favorite game on most of the time, along with everything you need to make your experience watching it perfect, including awesome service, food, and the best drinks in town.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Al's non-smoking, family-friendly environment is the perfect place for the entire family to enjoy a night out with great food and watching the best games. Al's is your place for large parties, fantasy drafts, work gatherings, or just meeting for the big game. For gaming customers, Al's offers a great voucher program, so make sure to inquire with the staff when you're there. Al's Garage is located at 11760 West Charleston in Summerlin. Tell them the franchise sent you. John Cutter is a neighborhood drinking and dining establishment that tends to parched throats and empty bellies for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and late night noshing. The laid-back atmosphere and awesome food is perfect for getting away from the hustle and bustle of the strip. The menu is short and sweet and does the trick anytime, day or night. The steaks are 100% Angus beef and the fish is flown in fresh. No freezers here, so you can be sure that the meal is made from the freshest ingredients available. From steaks and seafood to sandwiches, wings, and salads, you'll have no quarrel with the food, trust me. And stick around, because the later it gets, the more the place percolates. John Cutter's is located at 11770 West Charleston Boulevard in Summerlin. Tell them the franchise sent you.
Welcome back to the 70213 podcast. It's the Lakers podcast on FranchiseSportsMedia.com. I'm Joe Arrigo. With me is Lakers reporters Mike Dancy and Kyle Randolph. Isaiah Torres isn't here with us right now. He's on a family vacation this week, so hopefully he stays safe. And before we took a quick break, I told you I'll give you the reason why the Lakers would beat the Clippers in the playoffs. And it's based off an article that Mike wrote on Franchise Sports Media a couple weeks ago. And the Lakers have the best front court in the NBA. AD, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, Markieff Morris, and when he plays forward, LeBron James. There's no team in the NBA that has a front court like that. The length, the athleticism, the speed, the defensive ability, the rebounding, and between, honestly, LeBron and AD, their passing ability. The way AD can step out and stretch the court. There is no team in the NBA that has that. And that is precisely why the Lakers are the team to beat going forward in the NBA.
Oh, they're scary, 100%. I can't think of a front court that even competes with that. Because what a lot of people forget too especially from Shaqtin' a Fool and stuff like that. JaVale he's still solid, especially like maybe not as a star. Like obviously he doesn't compare to the stars he played with, but he is still solid. Dwight Howard, who's off the bench, I'd argue to say he was even good on the Hawks. Not even just mediocre. He was good. He was very efficient. So they got all these people that have started. JaVale has started before. He has the experience. Same with Dwight Howard. He has a lot of experience. AD, I don't need to explain that. He's AD. It's incredible how much they have. Nobody competes with that front court.
Yeah, don't even get me started. We'll talk about Dwight Howard in a minute. Don't get me started on that. But with JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, if you look at their stats, like what I like to look at, I look at their per 36 minutes, what they would be doing in 36 minutes. And if you just look at JaVale McGee's per 36, if he was playing 36, basically this stat would be saying if he's playing 36 minutes, he'll be scoring like 14 points per game. He'll be getting like 13 rebounds per and 2.3 blocks. I say this not to say that's what he would be doing, because of course it wouldn't be like that as much, but just to say that as like he's doing that in 16 minutes per game that he does play. Same thing with Dwight Howard. They're both producing. They're both double players. They're just not playing enough minutes to get that double. And when you get that energy, especially with Dwight Howard off the bench, who is gonna match that? Who's gonna match that starting center capability within, and throw AD in there too, especially down low in the post? Who is going to be able to match that rebounding and defensive ability when you have three players who are capable of doing this? And this is the rotation that they're running. Nobody can stop that. That's why I wrote this article, and that's why the Lakers will beat the Clippers. Whoever leads the rebounding category usually wins the game. And if the Lakers come with it, if Dwight Howard comes with it, if JaVale comes with it, if AD comes with it, if the front court comes with it, they should beat the Clippers.
What I look at is something that nobody brings up. Has the Warriors defense and has the Warriors been the same since JaVale McGee left and came to the Lakers?
Nope.
They're still looking for that center. JaVale is so underrated and undervalued because people just go back to the Shaqtin' a Fool stuff. People don't realize that JaVale's mom and his auntie were two of the greatest women's basketball players ever to play at USC. They played with Cheryl Miller. They won multiple NCAA championships. Like, when I mean ballers, I mean his sister's in the WNBA and she's a baller. JaVale understands how to play basketball. He understands the angles, the nuances. He understands his role. And he's okay with it. When you look at Dwight Howard, people want to go back to what Dwight did when he was there with the Lakers his first time around. Dwight is a goofy individual. He likes to have fun. He likes to do different things. He's into certain things. Now, with that Lakers team, there's a reason why it wasn't successful, and it was the head coach. They hired the wrong guy. If they would have hired Phil Jackson, like ironically what Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss wanted to do, and had an agreement in place until, God rest his soul, Dr. Buss said he wanted more flash and running, so he wanted D'Antoni. That team with Dwight Howard, Gasol, Nash, that team was perfectly made for the Lakers, for the triangle offense of Phil Jackson. But they ran a style that just wasn't conducive to the guys that were there. Dwight was taking things too lightly. Kobe wasn't letting him do that. Dwight didn't like it. Thought it was Orlando can do things his way. He found out the hard way. If you don't take it seriously in the NBA, you're not going to be in there for long. And he realized that, and that's why I applaud him for what he has done when he came back to Los Angeles with the Lakers. And what he brings is that intensity on the glass. He has no problem averaging less than 10 points right now because he's doing all the things this team needs to be successful because he knows his legacy needs him. He needs for his legacy a championship. Otherwise, he's just another guy that never fulfilled the promise that he has. With AD, I mean, you can make the argument, and I know, you can make the argument he's the best player on the Lakers. And I just went a whole LeBron rant earlier about LeBron being but you can make the argument AD's the best player on the Lakers.
He points.
Yeah. And probably going to be defensive player of the year, a force on the defensive end, played through some nagging injuries, and he's healthy. This shutdown got him healthy. Now, I say this tongue in cheek, but I really want to know. Did you guys see or hear AD speak on Tuesday for the first time with the press?
I did not.
I didn't see that.
Now, no one's supposed to be in the bubble, but AD looked like he just got his hair done with the twist. I mean, they were looking juicy, twisty, and all. So I'm wondering who the hell did AD's hair? But I digress.
Oh, man.
But the reality is the Lakers front court is unmatched. I think there's two teams that can give them some trouble. And that would be Milwaukee and Boston, actually. I think that they could give the Lakers some trouble. And on a side note, I think Houston could give the Clippers problems playing small ball.
Yeah.
And the Clippers have never been out of they never advanced past the second round. I don't even think they got out the first round in their history of their franchise. So I say that you got a team that wants to be the big boy in LA. They can't get out the first or second round of the playoffs. I'm sorry, you got to get to that point before you could talk about anything you're doing in Los Angeles. So the Lakers front court gives them the advantage to me over every team in the NBA.
Hands down, exactly.
I agree.
You guys are no fun. You're supposed to. I'm trying to disagree with you guys. You guys can't disagree.
The only thing.
Hey, I wrote the article. So what you mean?
The only thing I disagree with what you said. How you said Boston, and who was the other team that's the biggest threat? Milwaukee. Not to bring up the Clippers debate again, but you really think they're not threatening to the Lakers at all? Like, do you think it's going to be a sweep, Joe? Like, what are you saying? You're telling me Boston stands a bigger chance of beating the Lakers than the Clippers do right now?
Yeah,
I do.
What?
They look at Jason Tatum.
Oh yeah,
is ascending to be one of the top 2 or 3 players in the NBA.
Oh yeah, no denying.
Jaylen Brown, he's taken his game to another dimension. They have the guys up front. They have guys that they are built. Kemba is a problem. I mean, Kemba, Tatum, and Brown is a problem for the Lakers, especially with Bradley not playing. And if Rondo's not in shape because of his injury, that's a whole nother issue in itself. You're going to have J.R. Smith guard him. Now, Caruso is the X factor in that to me. But overall, yeah, I think Boston is a more so than the Clippers because guess what? Here's something that we didn't talk about when we were talking about the Clippers and whatnot. Who was the person again that went to LeBron and talked shit after Kawhi signed with the Clippers and not the Lakers? Oh yeah, that's Patrick Beverley, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think LeBron, AD, and the rest of the Lakers want to give it to them and have a little more of a purpose because Patrick Beverley wants to run his mouth? The guy does he have a title?
Oh, no.
No.
I definitely agree with everything you say. He doesn't have a title.
Does he have an NC? What has Patrick Beverley won other than biggest asshole of the year in the NBA amongst NBA players and media? Like,
I don't think he's elite. I was just saying you're underestimating how good of a defender he is. I don't think he's like the ultimate X factor.
I think you're overestimating how good of a defender he is. I think he's a gnat. Patrick Beverly's the gnat that just gets under your skin and your nerves, and you just get to like, and he just hustles. But he's also the guy, I think, and I know he's from Chicago. I know Chicago dudes are built different. I got a lot of family and friends from the Midwest and a lot of friends from Chicago. I know how Chi-Town gets down. I'm gonna be real. Someone gonna put him on his ass. You're gonna see a Rondo, Chris Paul, Brandon Ingram out of nowhere. Someone dot his eye, and I don't think he's the same guy. Like he's Chris Childs. Remember Chris Childs dotted Kobe, but what happened to Chris Childs after that? You didn't really hear from him. I think he's that type of guy. He's just a gnat that gets under your skin. He's not even like the fifth option on his team to score.
Oh no, he's not a scorer, but he's one of the best perimeter defenders in the game.
I would say I agree with you, Joe, the part he's a gnat, but like it works though. It's working. What he's doing, it might not be the best thing, but it's working. He gets under their skin. It allows him to play good, and he amplifies what he does do. Puts him on a higher level, and his defense isn't garbage. He can play defense.
I'm not saying garbage.
And his offense isn't that great, but they don't ask him to score. That's not what he's there to do.
That's not what they need.
But
they just need him to D up and be that gnat in your ear, and that's all he does.
But let's look at it this way: they just signed Reggie Jackson. They needed more scoring punch. They have Lou Will, Kawhi, Paul George. Is he really going to be on the court that much? Because if not, then Lou Will's not going to be on the court, or Reggie Jackson ain't going to be on the court.
He's a starter, though. He's going to get a few minutes in there.
Ron Harper started for the Lakers. Do you know why? Because Ron Harper's knees were shot, and that's the best time to get him out there when his knees were warm, because once they went cold, he was no good until after halftime. I don't give it. Lou Williams is a starter in the NBA for all intents and purposes.
Okay, he should be. I agree with that.
I mean, I see that too, because like Dwight Howard's not the starter, but he plays more minutes than JaVale. Just because you're the starter don't mean that you're going to get the bulk of the minutes.
Exactly. I don't give a damn if he starts. And that's why, again, I look at teams like Boston, got a deep bench. And I hate giving anything Boston credit for anything. I hate everything that is Boston other than New Edition. That's the best thing that ever happened to Boston was New Edition. Okay. The Red Sox suck. The Celtics, Buck Foston, okay. The Patriots, really, like, okay, if you're not from there, or you're not like Kyle, you're a Patriot fan, whatever. Like, you're like the only Patriot fan I know. The rest of them are all like whatever. They're all Buccaneer fans. Boston College, yeah, I don't care. Like the Boston Tea Party, whatever. Clam chowder, New Kids on the Block, they're both overrated. The next best thing besides New Edition coming from Boston was Cheers. So me giving anything Boston related credit, it kills my soul. Okay. So and then you look at Milwaukee. I look at Milwaukee's just different. And I think they're a team, and that if they get another, I know Chris Middleton is very underrated. They get another, I would say even losing Bledsoe to COVID, but they give themselves a real point guard, another point guard to come in there to play kind of like a combo guard to play off Giannis. That in itself will make Milwaukee very, very scary. Very scary.
That's what sucks when they lost Malcolm Brogdon. That's why if they had him,
yep,
they would have been even better, way better, and even more deadly than they already are.
No doubt about it. So, but I don't see a lot of these other teams in the NBA having the front court that the Lakers have. But Boston and Milwaukee, to me, pose the biggest threat. The Clippers, I think the Lakers have too much. I guess, for lack of better terms, too much purpose to beat them. They're tired of hearing Clip City, Chip City. They want to sell my good friend Marcellus Wiley there. They want to shut his ass up. Go back and sit down. Go back and sit down. This ain't Lob City, Slob City, Blob City. Okay. And then don't let Ballmer jump up and down, in and out of his seat. Nobody really cares. So they're kind of over that. And the fact that, look at the bottom line is this: and I'm going to get off the Clippers after I say this, okay? The Clippers want to be the Lakers. What did they just do? They bought the Forum. Ballmer bought the Forum. Why? Well, he wants to build his own arena on the Forum property, right? Well, the Lakers made the Forum fabulous and made him famous. The Clippers had, for a while, their training camp in Hawaii. Well, the Lakers' training camp in the 80s was in Hawaii before they left. The Clippers, under Donald Sterling, use the same font as the Lakers for their logo because they want to be the Lakers. They are the Lakers wannabes, and they always will be. And the Lakers know it, and the Lakers are at a point now where they said, okay, enough, little brother. You grew a little bit. You grew a sack. You hit puberty. But now let big brother come through and knock you on your ass a little bit, because the pecking order in the NBA is back. And really the pecking order in Los Angeles is the Lakers, number one. There's a drop-off. It's the Dodgers. The drop-off, it's US. And then, well, in USC football and Dodgers are kind of neck and neck. And then there's another drop-off, and it's maybe UCLA basketball, maybe LAFC or the Galaxy. Then there's the Kings, and then there's the Clippers. The Clippers aren't even in the top three or four of teams that are just people are passionate about in Los Angeles. I say that because I think the Lakers have a little added motivation to beat the brakes off the Clippers, especially off Beverly talking shit and everything else that goes around about it. So I'm saying that's why I don't think the Clippers I don't think they're going to sweep them, but I could see it being a 5-game series or even a 6-game, but the Lakers winning in decisive fashion in 3 of those 4 games that they played to advance.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys have a something that you like to do called Final Fantasy. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And today's Final Fantasy is, and you guys didn't tell me what years. So what year's Lakers team against what year's Miami Heat team?
So the back-to-back Lakers with Kobe, Powell,
Odom, Artest, Ariza,
yes.
Fisher, Bynum, Sasha, Phil. Okay, yeah.
So that against Miami, back-to-back with Wade, Bosh, Braun. That's it.
Oh, come on.
So what's the Final Fantasy? Like, that Lakers team is going to crush them.
Exactly, that's what I think. But some people hold that Miami team to a higher standard because they feel like that version of LeBron was like the best LeBron ever seen, which I don't think. I'll get into that later. I got an article coming out on that soon.
This week.
But anyway, back on topic. People think that team is good, which that team they had like pretty much 3 of the best players in the league. 2 of the top 5 players. I'd say 2 top 5 players in the league, and that's why they were so good. But if we get into it to see which team would win, it would be the Lakers, and it wouldn't even be like it would be the Lakers, and that's it. Like, it's not even a question. But some people feel like I feel like some people would think the Heat would win, but it's not even close. If you really want to talk about it, it's not even close.
Let's talk about it. Kyle, go ahead.
So I say Odom and Andrew Bynum are locked down. So you compare, I say Gasol and Bosh, they're pretty even at that time. Say what you will. But the mentality of Kobe Bryant, the defensive minds of Odom and Bynum, I don't see the Heat scoring much. I only see him doing it off LeBron James, which, to be honest, you can't really stop him. You can only contain him, which it's been done many times before, especially in the clutch when the game gets close and Kobe Bryant makes the Kobe Bryant face, then snap, it's over like a Thanos snap in Infinity War.
Okay, look. Prime Artest may be the best defensive forward in the NBA history.
He's underrated.
I agree.
Grossly. So let's be real. He's as strong or stronger than LeBron, and he's as tall as LeBron. He matches up ideally against prime LeBron.
So that's what I said. He would give Braun problems. Most players, they could slow down LeBron. Like young Kawhi kind of slowed down a little bit, but LeBron still was busting his ass.
Yeah, LeBron's gonna get his, but it's gonna be tougher. Okay,
It's gonna be a lot more tougher against Ron Artest.
Exactly.
And that's why I think that's the big factor. On top of that, buying him down low. You telling me Joel Anthony, Udonis Haslem, Birdman was all right, but you really telling me that he was going bang down there with Andrew Bynum, all-star Andrew Bynum, who was giving boys the business? I don't think so. I really don't.
I don't either. Bynum was an underrated center when he was motivated and in his prime before he got the next contract before the Sixers. Okay. Mm-hmm. The second thing is Gasol. Gasol is way better than Chris Bosh. Gasol is one of the top 2 or 3, maybe 4 players to ever come out of Europe. And he had unquestionable success, especially with his Lakers in his prime years. He literally was the perfect complement to Kobe. Okay. He would eat up by, he could go out and guard on the perimeter when Bosh wanted to step out. Bosh wasn't as strong as prime Gasol on that team. And Gasol could step out, and Gasol as a passer will force Bosh out. And then you got guys cutting. And I'm sorry, D Wade versus Kobe. I'm sorry. D Wade can do his thing. He may be a top 5 shooting guard all time. You're talking about Kobe, who outside of Jordan is the unquestionable second best shooting guard ever. And you can make a case in some people's minds that Kobe, he is the best shooting guard ever. Okay. And I'm biased. That was my boy. But at the end of the day, Kobe over Wade. And then who was the point guard of that Miami team?
Exactly. Look, I was just about to say something about that.
Mario Chalmers.
Chalmers.
Give me Derek Fisher over Mario Chalmers.
Exactly. Derek Fisher, seasoned veteran. He hit big shots. Like, Derek Fisher is a point guard. Miami didn't have a point guard.
And then let's talk about the biggest X factor of them all. Head coaching. Phil Jackson or Eric Spoelstra?
What you mean?
You mean LeBron James?
Okay, hey, whatever. You look at it, you're talking about arguably the greatest coach in NBA history. You could put him with Red Auerbach and Popovich as the only other 2 guys. Riley could be in there as well. But you're talking about the greatest mastermind of juggling egos and just dealing with people and finding ways to motivate.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that wasn't to discredit Spoelstra. It's just like at the time, LeBron don't let coaches coach. The only coach he listened to in his life is Coach K in the Olympics.
He listened to Spoelstra. Spoelstra got his ear after that first season where he kind of snapped at him a little bit. After that, LeBron really doesn't listen. But I'll say this, he listens to Vogel. He does a good job with Vogel. And I see them working in unison. And I think that's what it amounts to. If LeBron respects your basketball IQ and your basketball acumen, I believe that LeBron is going to work with you and LeBron is going to listen to you as the coach. When he doesn't, you see the Mike Browns. You see the what's the dude that was there for like David Blatt?
Yeah, he was gone. He was gone pretty quick.
Yeah, he gone. So, I mean, you see that. And look, the bottom line is this. That's any coach. Magic got Paul Westhead fired. You know, he got him, or Paul Westfall. No, Westhead. He was at Marymount afterwards. So, yeah, Paul Westhead. Paul Westfall ended up coaching the Suns years later. But he got Westhead fired, and Pat Riley came in as the coach. And then Dunleavy became the coach, and that was a big mistake. But, you know, whatever. The reality is that was back-to-back Lakers teams. You could put them. I think the bigger Final Fantasy is with those back-to-back Kobe's back-to-back Lakers teams beat any of the back-to-back or the 3-peat Lakers teams with him and Shaq.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
That could be next week. Let's go into that one.
Yeah,
you guys would have to go into that.
That's gonna be great.
Yeah. So let's talk about. We talked about some Hall of Famers, and the Lakers have a couple guys that I think, and I agree with you guys, are borderline Hall of Famers, and that's Rajon Rondo, who's missing the first, I think, was it 8 weeks with a thumb injury, or finger injury that required surgery, and Dwight Howard, which Mike and you wrote an article about making the case for Dwight being not just a Hall of Famer, but a first ballot Hall of Famer.
First ballot, easy.
So let's start with the latter and we'll go to the former. Let's talk about Dwight first. Mike, make your case for Dwight Howard being a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Dwight Howard is a first ballot Hall of Famer because it is. The NBA Hall of Fame is like, it's really the Hall of really good. Some of the players in the Hall of Fame are like the best of the best, the greatest ever. But some players in the Hall of Fame, they got in different ways. They weren't always at the greatest or always at their peak. And with Dwight Howard, the thing that will get him into the Hall of Fame is his consistency. Good players, if you're a good player, if you're a household name, if you do what you have to do what you're supposed to do, you'll get in. Dwight Howard averaged a double-double his entire career except for the past 2 years. The 2018-2019 season, when he was in Washington, he only played 9 games because he had the back injury and he was out. In those 9 games, he still averaged 12 and 9. So it's not like he wasn't putting work in. And then with these Lakers, he averages 7.5 points, like 7.4 rebounds, something like that. If you look at his per 36 stats, he's averaging 14 points, 13 rebounds, and 2.3 blocks. Not saying that he's going to do that, but that is what he's doing in 19 minutes. He is still capable of doing that. That's what Dwight Howard is. He's a double-double machine. If you can name me another player who averaged double-double for their entire career that played at least 10 seasons that isn't in the Hall of Fame, please let me know. My Instagram is at mdii.visuals. I don't know anybody else who's played as good as Dwight Howard has for as long as Dwight Howard has who shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame and should not be first ballot. Just because of all the mess that happened with him and Kobe and the Lakers, that doesn't dispute the fact that he was still producing. When he was in Atlanta, he was producing. When he was in Charlotte, he was producing. When he was in Houston, he was still producing. He still has the numbers. He's always had the numbers, and that's why he'll get into the Hall of Fame first ballot.
Mike, give him your Twitter as well.
On my Twitter is DANCYII. That is my Twitter. If you got something to say, let me know. Just hit me on Twitter, and I'll respond to you.
Kyle, what do you think? Is D12, or I call him D12, is Dwight Howard a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Yes, for sure. Mike said it all, so I don't have much to say. Just super efficient, super consistent, the double-doubles, leading the league in blocks twice. And he has made some history, too. He's always been solid. Like, when he was on the Hawks, it's not what people expected. Like, it wasn't the big magic Dwight, but he's always been consistent and solid. He averaged 13 points per game on the Hawks. Like, people forget just because they expected him to be great. He's not, but people forget, like, he's still a solid player, super consistent.
Not Definitely. Even solid, more like above average.
Okay, look, they don't expect him to be. His first few years, he was the number 1 overall pick for a reason. But to play devil's advocate, Dwight's game has never evolved, ever. I mean, he's starting to hit the 3, but that's because Dwight didn't put the work in the offseason to get his game right. Like, how often why wasn't he working with Kareem when Kareem offered up to come work on some fundamentals? Why wasn't he working with Bill Russell when that was offered? Why wasn't he working with Akeem when he was down in Houston? Those are things that make great players iconic. And Dwight hasn't been that guy. That being said, that's not his personality, like we talked about earlier. Dwight is content using his athletic ability, being faster, bigger, stronger than everybody, to be what he is in the NBA. Now there's guys in the NBA that are just as athletic, just as big, just as freakishly athletic and can jump. Those are the guys that are giving him trouble. And once the NBA started to go a different route, that's when you've seen Dwight, his play drop off. And that's what Kobe was trying to tell him. So, do I think he's a Hall of Famer? Yes. First ballot, Vlade Divac is in the Hall of Fame. He wasn't a first ballot, and he was a double machine. And you can make an argument Vlade is a better center overall than Dwight Howard. Truthfully, if you look what Vlade's done, not just internationally, but and not just with the Lakers and with the Kings, but overall, what Vlade has done for basketball, you can make the argument. Now, Vlade wasn't a first ballot, but Vlade is in the Hall of Fame. And I don't think even Arvydas Sabonis was a first ballot, and he may be the most gifted center ever to come out of Europe. If his knees were healthy, he would have been his prime. Sabonis was crazy good. But I do agree that D12 is a Hall of Famer. Now, Rajon Rondo, on the other hand, do you guys think Rondo's a Hall of Famer?
I do, but not first ballot.
Yeah, he's not first.
The reason is I hate to just keep saying stats because the game isn't all about stats, but leading the league in assists for 3 years, and for the 4 seasons he averaged at least 11 assists. He also averaged at least 10 points, so same point as Dwight. It's pretty similar. He's not as consistent or efficient, nowhere near nowadays, but he did all that. He was consistent double machine at the time. He led the league in steals as well, and he got the ring, so he made history. Hence, his teammates they're a huge reason for his assist, but he also averaged 11.7 assists per game again while he was on Sacramento, I believe.
Yeah,
in the 15-16 season. So he proved that the crazy assist Rondo wasn't just because of the Celtics.
Yeah,
he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he did really well offensively as far as passing the ball. He kept doing it. It didn't matter just because he was in Boston. That wasn't the reason why his assist numbers were so high. He proved whenever he left there and he was traveling around, he still was able to do that. He still was a factor defensively. The year before he joined the Lakers, he was in New Orleans playing for the Pelicans. He was big in the playoff games.
Rondo.
Yeah, Rondo is a lot better than people give him credit for. And that's why I think he's a Hall of Famer. Even whenever he was in Boston, they were talking about him being a Hall of Famer back then. Well, go ahead, Joe.
No, go ahead. I want you to get your point out.
I was going to say, at the end of the day, Rondo is a Hall of Famer. He's not first ballot. It might take him some years, but Rondo is Hall of Fame material based solely off of his play.
The Basketball Hall of Fame is not the NBA Hall of Fame. It's the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Rondo, to me, is more of a Hall of Famer than Dwight Howard. Rondo, you brought up history. I'm going to give you a history lesson, Kyle. Rondo could be the first player in NBA history to win a title with both the Celtics and the Lakers. It's never been done before. There's Rick Fox never won a title with the Celtics. He won it with the Lakers. So there's that bit of history. Rondo comes up big in the biggest games. Rondo makes plays and does things that, quite frankly, in the playoffs, not a lot of other point guards do. Rondo is going to be one hell of a head coach when he's done playing. And let's not forget that Kentucky team he was on with Jamal Mashburn. I believe was it Mashburn and Antoine Walker on that team with him?
I believe so.
That's a team that with Patino, Rondo butts heads with coaches because Rondo's so basketball smart that he questions coaches because he sees things on the court that coaches don't see from the sidelines. I think Rondo's a Hall of Famer, and I think Rondo's going to be a hell of a head coach. And I agree. I don't think he's a first ballot. It may take him a couple times, but I think he deserves to be. And when it comes down to, if you compare his numbers to Dwight Howard's, and consider where they were drafted, what rounds and where they were drafted, and the circumstances they were drafted under, Rondo could get in before Dwight Howard.
Yeah, because he played better than where he was drafted at, and I think Rondo, people sleep on him. People are really sleep on him. And like you said, he might get in before. And if he does, I think it'll be because his basketball mind, like his basketball IQ is on another level. He's very intelligent when it comes to this game called basketball. He knows how to play. He knows the ins and outs. He knows everything. And that's why sometimes, like you said, it's hard for him to get along, coach. That's why he had that fallout in Dallas.
Yep.
He's very smart player. Although he had some problems. Everybody has problems. He had some ins and outs, but at the end of the day, he should be a Hall of Famer. Maybe not first ballot, maybe before Dwight Howard. We'll just have to see what happens.
Well, folks, that's it for the very first Franchise Sports Media's 70213 Lakers podcast. Kyle, where can people find you on social media?
All right, so on Twitter, you can find me. It's Kyle Randolph FSM, and I'm in the process of making an Instagram for my Franchise Sports, but it's at Kyle Randolph FSM, capital K R and the end FSM, no spaces or anything in between. Also post about wrestling as well. So WWE fans, check that out too. Love debating sports and wrestling. So somebody come at me with a claim, question what I said today, please. Love debating, love all that.
What about you, Big Mike?
My Twitter is Dancy II. My Instagram is at mdii.visuals, VISUALS. I am the head of graphic design here at Franchise Sports Media. So like I make the graphics, so you can go check out my Instagram, check out some graphics that I make. If you want to see me make somebody, let me know and I'll do it. So yeah, hit me up.
And then Mike and Kyle have articles that come out weekly. And then as the bubble and the NBA season continues on, you'll see more Lakers stuff, including post game and previews, recaps and whatnot. And they're going to get you locked in, as well as along with Isaiah Torres, getting you ready to go for the 70213 Lakers podcast. I'm Joe Arrigo. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Arrigo. That's Joe, ARRIGO. There's a Facebook fan page, which is more like a family page because we're all family around here. It's the real Joe Arrigo. And IG is personal. I keep that one. Just go to Franchise Sports Medias. It's the Franchise LV. Follow us on all social media, the Franchise LV, and we got you covered, Las Vegas, from high school sports, NYSU sports, all the way to everything Las Vegas. And because TQ and I are from SoCal, we're Lakers fans, we decided to do this one for everybody. Keep it purple and gold. On behalf of Mike and Kyle,